Welcome to Bethany Farm. This is the entrance from Stumptown Road, which comes off of a major highway. And in the front here, you see the beginnings of this property planted with non-native species from the previous owners, azaleas and spruces, or Norwegian pine cones, Norway. And I think that this is a yucca plant. But from here, we have tried to do our own native plantings. And over here, we planted a pawpaw. This is a great understory. We hope that it will return, and if not, plan to line this driveway with elderberry and pawpaw as understory to these trees that cover it in the summer. You'll see the property right now. The black walnut trees that are here have just lost their leaves, and it is now November. In October, their walnuts dropped. We have not harvested them, but I think they're a great, and as anything, a great addition to this property, and a great possible viable product in the future. This is you'll see we'll come upon persimmons that are dropping like crazy in early November. It can be made to persimmon jam. We have here at the edge of what we're trying to create, a parking lot here, are compost bins. Currently we've brought 2 tumbler composts. We also have a leaf pile here. And we intend to have vermicomposting and test from these composts we have already created aerated compost tea. So we're gonna walk over here to what we call well, we call 2 things the shed, but this is the work shed, which has a lot of our materials, and this is where we plug in to create the compost tea in 5-gallon buckets. This is also where we bend our hoops. So this is a hoop bender to create a protected low tunnels, which we'll see in a minute. But inside this barn is where we keep our banana plant and create our compost tea in the far end there, where we plug in and brew the compost tea. So more of that is going to happen this year, and more of this is a holly tree. Great for creating decor in the Christmas time. This is a citrus tree called a calamandori, which we've kept in a pot from our old place, and we've tried to fertilize this pot because we're not quite sure it's going to make it if we put it in ground, but it seems to survive, although it's yet to give us any limes. These are ornamental plants that I'm not sure of, and daylilies from the previous owner. This shed will need some work, but we love it and we want to improve it. And there's another feature here, our rainwater barrel, which we've tried to connect from the top there, and right now, since it's winter, we've just drained it. This is my favorite feature, which I call the garden shed. And this is a log cabin replica created in the 1950s, we think in order to store deer kills, because there was a big deer head there, and has some remnants of the past, like an old tea kettle. Inside, we'll see a lot of the farming, gardening equipment we have. The owner really took a liking to trying to make this as authentic as possible, including with these knobs. And but this is cement on red cedar. Oh, I think I have to remember if it's red oak or cedar. This is our gardening equipment, our tomato trellises, our row covers, biochar and amendments, some pots, and hoop houses, more hoops over here. Some things that we would do for a pond, drip irrigation if we needed it, and self-watering planter. One of the things that we were intending to do was create a non-plastic planter that could be lined with beeswax. I'll take you to the production garden. We hope to make this site, beside the log cabin, a demo garden for small spaces. The only thing is we'll have to protect it from deer as well, because the deer we are blessed with more than our fair share of deer, which is why it's good that the property did come with a very tall fence to protect this side from the deer. And clearing this production garden out was one of the hardest things physically that we did after moving here. My husband Dave has installed 8 garden beds so far in this production garden, and 2 more are expected. It comes with a fig. There is a tree of heaven, one of these things here that we need to get removed because it attracts the spotted lanternfly and is non-native. And this is a sassafras tree, which is native and belongs here. So currently you see our production garden in the fall, and we are covered. Last night our temperatures went down to 39, so we've covered the rows with a light frost cover, Agribon row cover 30. We teach this. We've just recently taught a low tunnel workshop up to our GIY membership, our Grow It Yourself membership, and this is where we recorded. You can see a lot of the production right now is spinach, which I'm so proud of this getting to grow. We have never had spinach. It is always bolted because we tend to plant it in the spring, and really for our climate, which is Virginia, the fall is where we want to do. It appreciates the less sun, less heat, and thrives in that kind of fallish climate. These are fava beans, purple cabbage, red cabbage, a row of cover crops in this area. We have a hearty mix of triticale, winter wheat, crimson clover, legumes, oats, rye. I cannot remember everything, but it's a garden cover crop mix that is I can see some radishes, probably some radishes in there as well. This particular bed was treated with aerated compost tea, so it'll be interesting to see how it performs. Aerated compost tea, or ACT, are one of the things that I would really like to research as a viable alternative to commercial fertilization, organic or inorganic, or chemical, because it would totally drop the cost of inputs for farmers if we could all switch to ACT if found viable. And oh, these are great crops here, but they're coming out of I see a nice Swiss chard coming right out of my bed. Other things growing. Ooh, kimchi. This is a bed of Napa cabbages. Oh my goodness, they're so beautiful. They're so beautiful today. I cannot wait for this to head. It's just starting, and I feel like they've already maxed their they've been planted too close, but maybe not. A purple sprouting broccoli, a collard, And what's in here are daikon radishes for the kimchi as well. We're gonna have pickled daikon this week. Oops. Okay, so lots growing here. We put some perennials in here as well as the lettuce and spinach. This is a Basilica Sica fig, one of the honey figs, very sweet, from Greece. That was recommended to us by a Greek enthusiast, fig enthusiast and farmer that is our friend. Cavalier fig, some other ones here. Cold. And more of our crops have yet to be planted and are still in seeding trays. But let's leave the production garden for a little bit and walk up the hill. This area was used formerly as a goat patch. Dave, my husband, has cleared it. We hope to clear it some more and to have trees removed here that are non-native, and probably connect this to the garden, extend the garden either back or out, the production garden, and have a pathway for a chicken run that, if you can imagine the perimeter of a garden, the square would be a double run, one for the chickens and humans and one to pass in. And that way we can always have fertilization going from the poop of the chicken very directly without them actually getting into the garden beds. So how that is if you can imagine a double square as our garden bed, having the rows inside, the 10 8x4 rows, but then having a run on the out perimeter of the garden for the chickens, where they cannot get into the beds, but that they're pooping on the sides, and then that we can scoop their poop or rake it into a place where it could cure. Oh, I'm getting stuck here. And then cure it, and then add it, side dress it, or create compost tea if that's what we find is more effective than just plain compost dressing. We have a large amount of wildlife here, not just the deer but the birds, variety of them. We have a lot of woodpeckers. I think these are sparrows. You can see down here is what we hope to have become the outdoor classroom area. It was a dumping site for mulch, as the previous owner was a landscaper, and he would drive his trucks up here and dump the mulch. So there has been a lot of soil compaction and mulch creation in this area, but we hope to create that into the level space here beyond the trees as an outdoor classroom. If we walk here, this is actually the path I use to try to train for my 5Ks, is to run around this area, come back up here, out this fence. Nandina is growing right now, and then up these trees. The trees seem to have been put as it seems not natural the way that they have been placed, and so some people were speculating that maybe they were an homage to a dog, or someone had died and then you put a tree in there. But they are probably 50 years old pines. I think this is a birch. I wish I were a better tree identifier. But let's go around here. Beyond the trees, where you can see the log drop, the logs have been placed. Like, it's a great habitat for birds and wildlife and all sorts of creatures. There's a bear on this mountain, they said. So you can see, if I went through this path, this is probably the only time of year that I can do this, is fall. But I could go through this path, and in it, if I were to do research on mushroom which we hope to do in the future years. We're going to do composting first. Mushroom growing, we would probably do it here under this forest canopy. It's very bright this time of year, as they're not really evergreens except for these two. And then coming out here, we'll be at the top of the property, and you can see a great prospect of the land below. So this is uphill, and coming into the neighbors' campers. Oops. You can see a little village of our houses and sheds where we came from the top of the mountain, or the hill. We are on the foothills of the Catoctin mountain range. Well, it's not a range, it's considered a mountain. One big mountain that extends from Virginia to Maryland, Frederick, Maryland. And I think it's also, if you traveled up the mountain more to the north, you'd come to Camp David, where the president goes on retreats. Native oaks, for sure. This used to be an orchard, or could have been an orchard, according to an arborist friend of ours who came over and helped us identify some of the trees. But we intend to make it a real working orchard in the years to come. This is the area for the orchard. It's just nice to walk along the dappled sunlight in the winter time, the fall winter time. And I wish I had more. Lots of deer frequent the place that I'm walking, because I'll often be running and finding deer poop in the tracks, and they are fearless. The moms are already showing them where to eat stuff, and out of desperation, they've eaten our comfrey. We thought that the comfrey was one of those things that our deer do not like to eat, but apparently, if they're desperate enough, I see lamb's ear, I think, or it could be lamb's hen bit. Lots of twigs, a persimmon tree again at the end of this property, and ornamentals lining the road. So a Japanese maple. So in that where we have the electric post, we have planted a hazelnut and comfrey in between all the ornamental trees, and that's what's being eaten right now. So I guess this is the end of our property here. There's not much to see. We have a driveway that has two entrances. It's a nice time to record this. And you can see a different prospect from the house. We've already made improvements to the house in terms of insulation by removing protruding air conditioner units. It seems like two houses stuck together. In the 1950s, from the previous owners said that she had bought it from an old lady whose son would occasionally visit her. And we have a little pile here of the remains of a compost delivery when we just got started. We're trying to make our own now. Birds. This is a crab apple tree which is infected with scab. Two maples in the middle here that have been pruned in a weird way, but are still very charming feature because of their girth. My microgreens you can see sitting at the front. This is where we do a lot of our seed starting. Marigolds are still growing for me in a pot, and I would like to bring them in. I think we have some herbs growing, lavender, a lot of parsley, the remains of a watermelon that was huge, but that we picked too early. kale, which is now being bitten. Ah, the deer finally found it. That was big for a while there. My microgreens in the sun that I'm now selling to local businesses. Blueberries, kale, tree collards were on the production garden, but not here. And aronia. Over here, I've put lemon balm. The deer don't seem to mind the herbs. You'll see our exhaust from the dryer is here. We have all sorts of figs and these are mostly figs that are in pots and dormant. Over here is my kitchen garden. You'll still see the remains of tulsi. There's some sort of mint, but I'm not sure what this is because I didn't plant that. Basil, which I'll have for my lunch. Mint, peppermint, tulsi again. And in the back there, a tomato. At the back, we did plant some Swiss chard here that was pulled out by the deer. And rosemary, lettuces, celery, alongside here, and a brassica. I think this is a kale or a collard. I can't remember which one, but they are both delicious. And that's the end of the tour. We're envisioning a lot more for this house, to extend it till here, outward, to extend it outward to be able to create a processing room, a bigger kitchen, a processing room for our produce over here, which is currently a bathroom and a bedroom, and to have all the bedrooms on the top of our roof here, so connecting all the bedrooms of the house. And that's it for the external part of our farm. Hope you enjoyed.